answer.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I got your question, Qibla Shah Sahib, about the person who fasts on the day of doubt. This is called Yom Shak. It's best not to fast the last 2 days of Sha'ban unless you regularly fast in Sha'ban. And if a person was to, that person can only keep the fast whose niyyah, intention, will not waver. So if it was established, if there's doubt, and Yom Shak is when there's doubt in the sky as to whether the moon will be sighted or not visibly clearly. If in doubt, then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَأَكْمِلُوا إِدَّةَ ثَلَاثِينَ, complete the 30 days of Sha'ban. So if the 29th is doubtful whether tomorrow is Ramadan or not, if the person who fasts and his intention is firm, he does a nafil fast, and if it's proven that it is Ramadan, then that will be acting, it would act as his fast of Ramadan, his first fast. So it's very important, and it's the ulama write that it's the qazi and the muftis and it's the righteous people that they would actually fast this day, and then the responsibility would fall on them in regards to this. So with regards to the day of doubt, if there's doubt, then only those who are regularly fasting should keep the fast on that day. Otherwise, they would wait. They would wait until it becomes clear.
Okay, that's fine. We got the answer. Next question is from Keithley. A sister asked that what kind of clothing should be allowed in the current society we are living, according to Sharia.
I think Sharia specifically illustrates to us that we should be dressing modestly. As long as the clothing is modest, yani it's bil haya, in modesty, then there is nothing wrong with this. So a woman can wear a dress as long as it's a modest, loose dress. It's very important that the clothing that we wear is important, because if a person wears, for example, she wears or he wears tight clothing, the satar is showing, certain bodily parts are visible, then this goes against the teachings of Islam. Islam doesn't specifically say you have to wear, an abaya, for example. It's better to wear an abaya. Why? Because it's more covering. It's better to wear an abaya. It's, for example, or it's better to wear, salwar kameez, as is the traditional dress, for example, within the Pakistani culture. But if you go in the Arab world, they don't have salwar kameez. In their culture, it's different. But as long as the dress is a modest dress, then there's no i'tiraz, there's no objection. The bare minimum for a woman, though, is that she must cover her head. She must adorn herself with the hijab. And this is something very important. So whenever you choose to dress in a certain manner, always keep in mind that as long as it's modest and it's you want to be covered in a manner that nothing is revealing, then it's absolutely fine.
Right. So basically, it should be like a bit loose, so it doesn't show your body parts.
Yes. So for a woman, it's loose clothing. The Quran talks about jalabi bihinna, that they should wear big, they should cover themselves with big shrouds in the bosom area, and so on and so forth. So it's important that we keep that in mind. And for a woman, it's loose clothing, which is modest, that needs to be adhered to. Living in the West, it's different. There's, fashion is a huge industry, a huge part of, every woman's life, every man's life. Everyone wants to look good. We all want to wear the latest gears, the latest clothing. So we've got to keep that in mind, inshallah, that as long as it's modest clothing, modest wear, then it's absolutely fine, inshallah.
Okay, that's good. The next question is about Umrah. Like, as you know, most of us know, since this season, Umrah season started, they launched new visit visa. So for visit visa, you don't need a Mehram. So can a single woman or a single lady who is about 20 plus something can she go with her mother to go for Umrah, just to get visit visa and go Umrah without a Mehram? And if not, who
No,
is Mehram?
in the Sharia, it's necessary for a woman to travel with the mahram at all times, especially when she's traveling the muddatul safar, the distance of
Mhm.
being considered a musafir or musafira. So it's very important that a mahram is present. If you see, even though we live in a global village, I mean, this is a point which the muftis and the qudar
Yeah.
discuss in relation to it being a modern issue. Is it safe for a woman to travel now globally around the world? These are questions that need to be asked. And because of the
Yeah.
safety of a woman, a mufti would give you the best answer in regards to whether the ruling can be altered or not. But as it stands thus far, I've not come across anything which states that, especially within the Hanafi school, that a woman is allowed to travel without the presence of a mahram, um, on a journey. So even though the Saudi government may recognize this, they may issue visas which permit a woman to travel without a mahram. A woman must still
Yeah.
travel with a mahram, for it's within the Sharia that a woman is to be accompanied by a mahram when she travels a certain distance.
Yeah, but some people say, Imam Sahib, like these days the journeys are more secure, and you already mentioned that some mufti can say a ruling about it. Like these
Yeah,
days,
it's some. I mean,
the
thing
journeys
is,
are
Shasab,
more
I've
secured.
not come across anyone who's discussed this mas'ala or
Hmm.
this issue in great length or detail as of yet. I don't know if discussions have happened on this subject yet, but as it stands, I mean, I can't sit here and give a verdict. I'm not a mufti, first of all, but in
Right.
relation to traveling without a mahram, I've not come across anything thus far that stipulates. I think in the Shafi'i
Okay.
school, it's mentioned. There is even an opinion that if there is a large group of women over a certain age, then for them to travel in a pack like this, it's jaiz,
Yeah.
it's permissible for them. These are rulings
Okay.
that have been mentioned, but specifically to say that now the Saudi government have issued visas where you can travel without a mahram, you're in your early 20s, etc., etc. I've not come across a
Hmm.
verdict or a ruling in that regards as of yet.
Okay. That's clear. The next question is from Manchester. The brother asks, "What are the obligations for ghusl?"
Ghusl becomes fard on a person. क्या गुस्ल के क्या फराइज हैं या किस
गुसल
पर
के
गुस्ल
फ्राइज,
फर्ज
हाँ
होता
जी,
है?
गुसल के फ्राइज.
Yeah, there are three fard of ghusl. The fard of ghusl
Mhm.
are three. First, you have to wash your mouth thoroughly. The second, you must clean your and wash your nose up until the bone thoroughly. So you need to
Right.
make sure that everything is out of the nose, your mouth is rinsed and cleaned and gargled properly. And the third fard of ghusl is that your entire body, every single hair on your body needs to be wet. So that's under your arms, that's between your legs, in everywhere there's hair, that you need to make sure that every part of your body is wet. Every hair on your
Right.
body is wet. This is very important.
Okay. Mashallah. And the next question is from Ira Naz. She is watching our transmission live. She just asked the question. If Brother Abdul Rauf, you can display the question as well, I will read it. That is there anything you can tell that one can read to distance a child from drugs? Like anything, any wazifa for a mother to read it for,
I think
to
mother's
protect their
du'as are
child
very
from.
powerful. I think a mother's du'as are very powerful. A dua in general, a dua of hifazat and khair and protection. The du'as of protection are very important. Read Qul a'udhu bi rabbil falaq, Qul a'udhu bi rabbin nas. بسم الله الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء وهو السميع العليم. This is a very important dua to read 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the evening. حسبي الله لا إله إلا هو عليه توكلت وهو رب العرش العظيم. Mentioned in hadith, whoever reads this 7 times in the morning and in the evening, Allah Ta'ala will protect them from all illnesses, all problems. This is a very powerful dua, as well as Subhanallah wa bihamdihi adada khalqihi wa rida nafsihi wa zinata arshihi wa midada kalimati. 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the evening. And to read Raditu billahi rabban wa bil islami deenan wa bi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam nabiyyan wa rasula. 3 times in the morning, 3 times in the evening. These du'as and adiyah, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us to, as a means of protection, hifazat, from illnesses, from metaphysical powers and jinns and nazar and stuff like this. Ayatul Kursi, these are very powerful. And there's nothing more powerful than Kalamullah wa Kalamu Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So, we need to make sure we adhere to that as much as we can, inshallah.
Okay. And the last question is, is these dice games are haram? And if yes, why?
This question is recently come up a few times. Physical dice games, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned about this, that look, using and playing dice games it's like you have disobeyed Allah and His Rasul. This is mentioned in one hadith. In another hadith, it's like you have put your hand into the blood of swine, into swine's blood, into a pot of swine blood. So this was in relation to dice games. The ulama write that the illat of this hadith, wajh hadith, the reason why, the illat, the cause of why the Prophet ﷺ said this was because there was a common game in the Arab time called backgammon. Backgammon used to be a game that used to be played with dice, and a lot of people, it had gambling attached to it. Now, the ulama write that any dice games which have gambling associated with it, those dice games are haram. Qat'an, full stop. However,
but if people play Ludo at home without gambling,
for example, this is the question now. So if people play Ludo, for example, without gambling, and so on and so forth, again, it involves dice. Because it involves dice, playing dice games, if we go by the wording of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in terms of just dice games in general, then we should avoid this. The other thing is that it takes a lot of time. The ulama write that it takes a lot of time. Hatta Fatawa Rizviya Sharif mein, Allah Hazrat Imam Ahl Sunnah Shah Raza Muhaddis Ibreli Rahmatullah alayhi, he was a phenomenal polymath. He was the greatest alim of his time, and there are thousands, tens of thousands of questions that came to him. One of the questions was on Ludo and playing these games that existed. And Allah Hazrat himself said that, look, it should be avoided. If it can be avoided, avoid it, because there's a lot of time that is wasted. And insan's purpose on this earth is not to waste time, and so on and so forth. And there's sharait, there's strict conditions even that Allah Hazrat Imam Ahl Sunnah Rahmatullah alayhi, and Hatta Lama Shami Rahmatullah alayhi in his Radd Muhtar, he also mentions in there as well that as long as a person doesn't miss his prayers, he's not going to miss his prayers, etc. These things, and he's then okay if you play and it doesn't distract you from your prayers, and you are focused and you read your namaz on time and stuff like this, and there's no gambling involved, then okay, you can play. There is this ruling. However, I believe in today's day and age, especially in this lockdown period, people are passing a lot of time, in playing Ludo online, playing Ludo and all the time. And maybe my view is a more Sufi view, my Mu'tasawwif sort of view, where it's avoid these things. This is la'ibun wa lahwun. But if we was to go to the Sharia, Allah Hazrat said avoid it. Ibn Abd al-Barr, rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam al-Nawawi and the likes, the Shafi'i scholars as well, they said that it is najais to play such games.
Right.